So where you guys started with me this morning would actually be the start if you wanted to do it in chronological order of years before we get here. This is the start, I would say, of my childhood memories that I remember. Before I knew what was going on in the world, so to say, and before I cared about those kinds of things. I think for the most part, I lived a very carefree life in the beginning, a fun life, a life that had a lot of animation and entertainment and imagination. And I think that's the thing that saved me, was my imagination. You know, I was able to always see my visions in color. I saw them very clearly in Blu-ray and 4K before there was such a thing. I knew exactly what my life could be, not necessarily would be.
It's the WESTSIDE. Na 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 na. It's the one and only CPT. I'm coming from the West Coast, where we got the best high, good dope. We be saying na 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 na. It's the one and only CPT. Yeah. Now where I come from is not the puzzle or a riddle. 4 fingers up, 2 twisted in the middle. If I was Bruce Wayne, that would be my bat symbol. And where I'm from, DJs don't smile, no dimple.
You're gonna speak to different people, you're gonna get different accounts of what makes Cape Town what it is. You know, for me personally, the thing that I enjoy the most about it, and growing up here, obviously, that I enjoyed the most, we are doing one of my favorite things right now. We're riding a train that's next to a mountain that also overlooks the ocean.
People are yet to really comprehend and wrap their minds around the beauty, the power, and the impact of Cape Town. They talk about it, but they can't comprehend it because not a lot of them spend a lot of time here and they haven't been a part of the journey and the history. So I think with this sneak and the stories that comes attached to it, it will actually help get those stories out and also to build the interest as well.
There's a lot about it, a positive and negative, that makes it vibrant, that makes it an interesting place and a special place. I mean, I use the word magic because I always feel like when you have anywhere where there's nature that is colliding and you have the clash of the elements as well, the wind, the waters, the rain, you know, the fires even. You know, this is a place where the elements all meet each other, and sometimes, you know, it's a massive explosion of energies, you know, and I think for me that creates a certain dynamic, a certain atmosphere for us to write and create, because I think some of the best creatives come from Cape Town.
I think we have a very interesting history. We have a very powerful history as well. The music of the city, if you want to call it the traditional music, the hip-hop music, everything else that's popping up. And the fact that it's not in the mainstream yet makes it even more spicy and more interesting, and it makes people a little bit more curious. And when people come in, tourists come here, they only experience one side of Cape Town, yet there's a whole lot more to experience. From a spiritual side of things as well, there's a lot that Cape Town have to offer to the spirit and to the soul as well. And I think with those ingredients, that is what makes the city, you know, stand out in the world.
This is the urban section of Cape Town. And to survive here, you also have to be a special kind of a person, you know. It's best to find an outlet or a gift or a talent or something and just try and hone in on that, work on that, whether it's soccer, whether it's writing, painting, DJing, art, dancing, whatever. But it's best to find some sort of a ability that you have and then practice that. And hopefully that can carry you to a better part of Cape Town or a better part of the world or wherever it is you want to spend your time.
Growing up in South Africa or growing up in a third world country, it's tough. You know, things aren't easy. But we've got dreams, we've got goals, but we always find a way. You know, we always find a way to get shit done, to achieve, to progress. And I think in that also, it's not just about us, it's about the greater good, it's about the community and the people we bring along with us. And yeah, that's why we're here today in Boston, you know, shooting content for this collaboration. You know, we're here not just with YoungstaCPT, you know, the people who've been along his journey, like Grandmaster Reddy D, are here too. And that's kind of the attitude of inclusiveness and empowerment that makes us unique.
I had a very difficult time convincing people around me to see things the way I did. And I think we all struggle with that. My early years were very much orchestrated by that lady that's standing in the background, you know. we don't have her on camera now, but without her, I don't think I would have had the courage. I don't think I would have had the motivation, because if my mother had to shoot down my dreams more than once, repeatedly, then I don't think I would have actually wanted to pursue it any further than that, you know. Her field, whether it was fashion, whether it was modeling, you know, whether it was styling, designing, she was always doing something that was like outlandish almost. So my childhood was never normal simply because I wasn't raised by a normal mother. And I feel like all our mothers are extraordinary women. I just feel like the one that I got specifically out of the draw was a very, very lucky strike for me, you know. She put me on a stage when I was 3, completely against my will. So she laughs, but you know, she exposes me to a stage and lights and a crowd of people at such a young age that by the time I'm 18 and I stand on a stage and I have to freestyle, I don't have fear of a crowd. I don't have fear of an audience, you know, because she already, without knowing, trained me to overcome that at a young age. Now I have a duty to perform this task. I have a duty to bring honor and success to Cape Town, from Cape Town, you know, and for Cape Town.
YoungstaCPT fits the Reebok values and attitude more than anyone. And to be honest, he's been on my radar for a long time.
I've been wearing Reebok for a long time also, since I was a kid up until, you know, adulthood. Even when I started rapping, you see it in some of my early photos too. You know, the Iversons, I was a big fan of those, as we spoke about in Boston. So it was a very organic and natural partnership, I would say.
Grew up in the streets. Things didn't always go his way, but he pushed through it, he persevered, and look at him today. He's arguably the hottest hip-hop artist in the country. In my view, probably one of the best lyricists in the space, not just locally, but globally. And yeah, his story is just phenomenal. You know, where he comes from, he didn't always have it easy, but he never conformed. He never ever conformed. He never followed. You know, he led through his own attitude, and yeah, and I think that's what makes him a great fit for the brand.
We came to sit around the table and discuss things that we should around a campfire, and a lot of ideas were thrown around, and I'm glad that they have also come to life and taken shape.
Yeah, I'm actually a little bit disappointed in Youngsta and his team though, because they're tight-lipped about the sneaker. Even Team Reebok, nobody's saying nothing. And I'm trying to fish, and I'm like, yo guys, don't be like that. We know each other. Why must you guys be like that? So, but you know, when I'm just turning on my little superhero / spidey senses over here, I'm sure it's gonna be awesome though. Knowing Youngsta and knowing how his brain works, and I'm sure he's gonna get the city behind him as well.
By doing this shoe, the sneaker with Reebok, it's probably something that if you had to tell my grandfather this in the 60s or the 50s, he'd have laughed. You know, it would have been the furthest thing from his reality. And if you had to tell my mother in the 80s and the 90s that was going to happen to her son, she probably would have never believed you. And now you stand here in 2025 on the corner of the street that I spent like 20 years in. I have now a shop across the road. If you had to tell me in high school that I'd have a shop there, I'd have laughed at you. You know what I mean?
Reebok is kind of the originator for a lot of things. I think we even go back to the archive room and see stuff that they did way before any other brand has.
For me, this is what it feels like probably for a kid in a candy store, literally.
W-E